Before we look into what happens when you start manipulating files and directories, let's first talk about a very special case which can seemingly break your Unity projects. The scenario is so notorious that it even has a dangerous sounding name. It's called Evil Twin Merge. I know, it sounds bad, but it's actually pretty easy. Let me show you an example first. I will create a new branch. And on this branch, I will create a directory. A typical directory which we might need in a Unity project is a scripts folder. And yes, for this simple example, I am using directories and folders as synonyms. Let's check this in. And now I'm going to switch to a different branch. As always, for simplicity's sake, let's go to main. And on main, I am going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to create a new folder called scripts. Okay, so this is the situation. We have two branches with exactly the same change, you might think. But when I try to merge, you can see we get a merge conflict. And here's the proof I didn't make this name up. It's really called Evil Twin Conflict. So what you might have expected to happen is that once we created the two folders, that Plastic might somehow be smart enough to understand that they are the same. But this is not the case. For Plastic, those are sort of different objects that are just named the same, and so it needs some decision from us what to do now. And as you can see here, we have three options to resolve the conflict. The first option, which is chosen by default, is that we just rename the folder on one of the branches, and it even tells us that it will be the destination branch. So in our case, we would rename the folder on the main branch. This is sort of the safe version if you are not really sure what might be in those folders. Because in that case, you will basically just have a copy that is slightly differently renamed, with all of its contents in the merge. The other two options are more dangerous because you will get rid of one of the two versions. So in the second case, we keep the version on the new branch, on source, and in the third case, we keep the version from the main branch. For now, I want to keep the safe version with the renaming, so I go resolve directory conflict. And now once the conflict is resolved, I can actually check in. Finally, let's see how this looks in Unity. As we would expect, we get both folders, with the one folder being renamed. Now there's one little technical issue here that is not very dramatic. Because Unity also has meta files for directories and global identifiers for directories, it also has to change the global identifier for the renamed folder. And that is basically what it's warning you here about. If they would both have the same global ID, it would be a conflict. So it just automatically created a new GUID for the renamed version. Again, when would this solution be useful? If we were not sure what we want to keep from those folders, what we could now do is move the files to the folder where we want it to be, and then delete the other folder and check in again. In that sense, that would be the safe solution. And that is basically it for the evil twin conflict. This might happen in different constellations and in different scenarios, but basically it's not really complicated. It just means you have two things that are named the same from different branches, and Plastic will not really understand that those are the same thing. But for Unity projects, this conflict can be particularly evil. And for that, let's just quickly undo all of our changes, and I will show you what I mean. We are all the way back to a fresh project. So again, I will create a new branch. And on this new branch in Unity, I will do something in the scene. So for example, let's add a cube. I save and check in. Then I switch back to main. And do something different in the scene. So let's remove the cube and add a sphere, for example. Now back in Plastic. Again, let's try to merge those two changes. And now to the evil part. What we get here is exactly the same situation as we had before, but this time on the assets folder. Now, we didn't create any asset folders, right? They are there sort of by default. But the problem is that they only get added to version control once we actually checked in. And because we checked in on both branches separately, for Plastic this looks like there are two different asset folders. And when we now try to resolve the conflict as before, because maybe we are confused and we don't want to lose the asset folders, we click Resolve Directory Conflict, check in the merge, and now switch to the resulting change set. Unity will crash. Now, I don't know if Unity will create some workaround for this situation in the future, but the problem here is that Unity treats the asset folder as a special folder. And because during the merge, we sort of secretly exchanged the old asset folder with a new version, it gets confused and crashes. There are three ways to save the situation. First of all, the situation is not as dramatic as it might seem. Yes, Unity did crash, but you can just kill the process and you will be able to restart Unity. Just keep in mind that this is the version with the assets folder from the source branch. So we can see there is only a cube in the scene. Now, if you need to save something from the other assets folder or you want to exchange this assets folder for the other one, this is also still possible. You can see in the Explorer or in Finder that the other asset folder is also there. Now I could just throw away one of those and rename the other. And by rename, I mean the exact word assets. And then when I would restart Unity, it would use the correct asset folder and everything would work fine. The second solution is to choose just one of the versions in the merge. So either choose the version from the source or the destination branch. This will also leave you with just one asset folder, but keep in mind that you will lose the changes from the other assets folder. The third and best option, in my opinion, is to avoid the assets folder conflict in the first place. So here again, I'm on a fresh project without any changes that I introduced. And all I have to do is to go to Unity. And since I always have a default scene, all I have to do is go to the scenes file, choose add to source control, and this will automatically add the scene, the scenes folder, and the assets folder to version control. And when I then branch off, both branches will already have those folders available. Remember that this is not really a Plastic related issue. In fact, it's actually more of a Unity issue because Unity treats the assets folder sort of special and needs it for project initialization. Okay, I hope I could help some of you avoid this pitfall. And let's now move on with the next topic.